Man, today I got a real homie in here, man. Homie, I mean, you international.
Yeah.
But, you know, Father, I say homie, the DC homie, man, real, man. It's a pleasure and excited to have you, man.
Thank you for having me,
Matthews, a.k.a. Lethal Shooter.
Yep.
Before I start anything, man, obviously why they call you Lethal Shooter, but who made, was it gave to you somebody, your self-title? How that happen?
So, you know, a lot of people don't know, but I grew up playing basketball at Rudolph Playground. And my dad used to call me Lethal. Right. But it wasn't Shooter at the time. It's like, man, you lethal. You know what I mean? So when I came up with the Instagram name, I didn't know what name I wanted to come up with. You know, so I was like, you know what? Let me come up with Lethal Shooter. And it was a blessing that nobody took the name, you know, because right now the whole world know who Lethal Shooter is. And so definitely shout out to my dad because he used to always call me Lethal when I used to hoop. So it's definitely a blessing.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Rudolph, that's neat. What part of DC is that?
That's Uptown. You know, Northwest. Okay. Yeah, so I went to Rudolph Elementary School growing up. And that's why I learned how to play basketball.
Yeah. Man, again, we're going to get into that basketball, but you had an intriguing childhood growing up, right? I want to touch into that, right? First of all, give me a visual of inside your household. Dad, you know, how that look at your house, brothers, siblings.
Yeah. So growing up, you know, a lot of people don't know, you know, I didn't grow up with my biological parents, you know what I mean? Because, you know, in that era in the 80s, you know, they was running the streets, you know what I'm saying? So me and my brothers and sisters, I was the one that wasn't kept in the home, if that makes sense. So, you know, my biological father just passed around Trinidad through some situations with some drugs, and my mom is still battling some small situations as well. But you know, I feel like that's what made me who I am today. You know what I mean? Because if it wasn't for my mom and dad that took me, which he was my cousin, but he's my father, if that makes sense. So when he took me out of that home uptown, you know, it was God's calling, you know what I mean, to not grow up in one of those situations I could have grew up. Because in what people don't know, I was born in '85, and in that era, it was real tough in the DC area, especially living around Newton Street. People don't understand that back in them days, Newton Street was off the chain. So long story short, man, just to be where I am today is God's grace. You know what I mean? So growing up, my dad, he molded me to be the man I am today. You know, like you say, like a stand-up guy. Because in the early '90s, you know, not no disrespect to DC now, it was a little different. You know what I'm saying? So like if I go hoop somewhere and my dad ain't there, one of his mans would be like, man, you playing soft as shit, man. You need to pick it up. Back then, I say, you know what, man, I'm going to pick it up. Now, we feel like, you know, if you talk to kids a certain way, that, you know, they feel like you're coming at them. And I feel like the accountability is low. And that's why I feel like I am who I am today as well, because it was so much accountability in the neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just on my mom and dad. It was the neighborhoods that was raising us.
Exactly. The community love. You said earlier, you said about cousin and dad. So are you saying you had an older cousin that took you out of the situation you was? He became a father figure to you?
Oh, okay. You know what I mean? So I call him my dad. He actually passed as well. He had a heart attack in front of me. Sorry to hear that. You know, but the way I look at life, you know, when he passed, I was 25. You know what I'm saying? I'm 37 now. And God did that for a reason. You know what I mean? God put this guy in my life for a reason all the way until I was ready at 25. You know what I mean? So I didn't look at it as like, you know, God, it's your fault or something like that. I looked at it as, you know what? I'm going to make sure this guy's legacy lives forever. You know what I mean? That's why I started the Jeffrey Winslow Foundation, because everything I do in the community and everything I do with my life is dedicated to him.
Jeffrey Winslow, We need more Jeffreys. That's what we need right now. We need a Jeffrey Winslow right now today, because a lot of households is way more broader than it was back then.
Absolutely.
You know, with the absent parents. So, not to pry too much in the parent, your biological, were you ever witness any drugs? You witness any abuse, anything?
Yeah, you know, growing up, like I said, I lived around Newton Street, I lived around Kennedy, I lived around First and Gallatin, Langdon Park. You know, as a kid, you know, I would see my uncles and stuff.
Naming all war zones, too.
Yeah. You know, I would see them cop. But as a kid, you see it quick. So you'll be playing with your friends, like, Dad, what my uncle doing? Or something like that. And then you look away, then you might go in the room, see him doing something. But the one thing that I always remember, when they was doing what they was doing, it wasn't like they wanted you to watch. Go on, get out of here, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But I caught them. So as a kid, you see shit like that, like, what the fuck is he doing? But as you get older, he's like, damn, he was doing that. You get what I'm saying? But and you know how, like I said, in the 80s and the early 90s, you will always see your friend's mom and stuff doing stuff beside the apartment complexes. But as a kid, you're like, damn, she tripping. But as you get older, she was doing that to get the woo-woo. So long story short, you know, some of that stuff still traumatized me today, but I do well with conflict, if that makes sense. I'm not one of those guys that I'm letting the past affect my future. So I might sit up late at night and watch different stuff like Marvin Gaye and different stuff that stimulates me, but it make me think about the past, but I'm not staying in the past that it stops me from my real future, if that makes sense.
Right.
So a lot of people that go through trauma, I'm not saying they messing up, but they don't really go to their full growth because they allow that trauma to just hold them down.
Right.
I don't let it do that to me. I do remember those things, and that's why to this day I've never drunk in my life. I've never done drugs. I don't smoke weed. You know, I went to college. In college, when everybody drinking, come on, man, drink your drinks, man. I'm not drinking, bro. You know what I mean? Do a line. I'm not doing no line.
Right.
You know I live in LA. When I'm in LA, we at parties and stuff. People doing all type of stuff to fit in.
Right.
I don't need to fit in. I'm my own man. And if I need to fit in by doing some drugs or popping some pills or drinking some liquor, y'all ain't the ones for me.
Right.
Because I understood what it's done to, respectfully to my family members. Doing heroin and drinking alcohol, it runs in my family. You know what I mean? And I want to be the one to just stop that chain, if that makes sense. You get what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's probably because you've been in a lot of celebratory moments.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Reason to pop some bottles and champagne and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you did exactly what you did and you feel like people feel like, oh, he's squared up, man. The mood change.
Yeah, well, people be thinking I'm lying. So, like, if I go to party, like you said, people might be celebrating, popping bottles, going crazy. Man, come on, man. No, I'm good, man. Woo, woo. Man, come on, man. Why you acting like that?
Right.
But like I said, the way that Jeff raised me, the way that my neighborhoods raised me, I never felt the pressure. Nobody gonna pressure me to do nothing I don't want. Right. You know what I mean? Come on, man, do it. If I say no, nigga, I'm not doing it. Right. And that's why I'm blessed to have Jeff and Stephanie raise me, because there's so many people that I know that they were pressured to do things and now they behind bars, or some of my best friends are dead, or certain situations because they allow that pressure to get to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you're not wrong. If you're in a situation, yes, sometimes people might, come on, man, you acting like, if I'm acting like, nigga, I don't give a fuck you. I don't care. You get what I'm saying? Because you don't understand. They don't know my past. Right. They don't know what I've really been through. Right. And if you my real friend, if I say no, you're gonna say, all right, don't worry about it, man. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How you balance that? Because you always present yourself as a gentleman, calm demeanor, but when you're on that square, this is the first time I've seen you get emotional like that outside the square. I only see that in the square. How you balance that, being able to keep that calm?
The one thing I learned as well, like I said, because of my environment, you never really want people to know what you're thinking. You know what I mean? And that's just because of my environment. I've been, as a kid, you know what I'm saying, going to the tunnel, going to the icebox and different things. You can't be erratic, if that makes sense. So, but if you put my back against the wall, I'm going to protect myself, if that makes sense. So it's just like you're saying, I can be in certain type of environments with celebrities or different type of things, but I know how to handle myself. But if I feel like you're trying to take advantage of me, if you feel like I'm somebody you could push over, I will respectfully tell you first, man, I think you need to back off a little bit, or woo woo. And then if you continue to push on me, yes, I will protect myself if I feel like you put me in that box. And that's a good example that you said, because once I feel like somebody's trying to minimize me, I will stand up for myself. But I am great at knowing as well that I was taught everything is not to be spoke about. There's certain situations, I see it and I saw what you did and I'm gonna step away from it before it can happen in that situation. And I think that's what a lot of people have to master if you want to be successful. And the thing I think was happening in the DMV area, why people aren't really blowing up the way they need to blow up, like you and other people, is because they entertain everything. As soon as somebody say something, oh no, brother, you say that about me, hey, have a blessed day, man. I hope your wife doing great, man. But I know I don't mess with you. You get what I'm saying? So it's just knowing, picking and choosing when to speak and when not to speak. And I think if you master that in life, man, you'll master life.
Like, you dropped the jewel right there. That's the name of the show, Changing Jewels. You dropped the jewel. So now, you seen what you did. You probably named 4 different hoods you grew up in. The round basketball. You know what I'm saying? What was the first organized team you played for?
Yeah, so the first organized team, Rudolph Elementary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Simeon, rest in peace, Simeon.
Legend.
He basically was like, yo, I want you to play for Coach Sean. But at the time, our court was in a cafeteria. So they would take us all around the city playing basketball, which was a blessing, man, because like we saying with Jeff and people like Simeon, it was no motives.
Right.
They wasn't doing it like how it is now, where everybody want motives out of kids. You know what I mean? I remember Simeon used to pick us up, man. They had no money, feeding us, giving the junior Wizards jerseys. You know what I'm saying? Taking us all around the city. And then if you act soft in the game, he gonna call you out.
Right.
And then when you get home, he gonna tell your dad what you did. And your dad might smack you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's the accountability that me and you was talking about earlier that we're missing in the city. So, being a part of that team growing up, especially to find out what my full potential was, man, it was a blessing, man. It was a blessing.
Man, you spoke on the seminars of the world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm from from too, and I remember a lot of guys like him around doing stuff with no monetary reasons.
Yes.
What's your thought process? And you don't fit this, and we're not even putting nobody's name on it. It's just what's your thought process on guys like him that gave the community their entire life? They lost their wives, they lost their kids, got on drugs.
Yes.
And some of those people make it to the next level, and they don't get back to them. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to each his own. That just shows who you are.
Right.
And that's why, Simeon died, but I honor him by giving something to his family. I honor Larry Madness.
Right.
I honor Walter Ray. I honor Big Warren before he died.
Right.
Just yesterday, I honor Sean Conley uptown.
Right.
Because who are we without the people that helped us?
Right.
Who am I to go become lethal shooter and I forget about everybody that did something to me? And that's why it's people like Coach Nutt that you know what I'm saying? We gave him the key to the city.
Right,
because it's people around by Langdon Park, Saratoga, Montana, Uptown, where we wouldn't be who we was if it wasn't for, great examples, people, great basketball players that came through the city because of people like that.
Right.
So why would I go around the world? Why would I be in all these magazines doing all these great, amazing things and not come back and let the world know, man, I am who I am because of you. I am because of her, if that makes sense. And that's why every time I come home, I always do my due diligence to let everybody know, man, I appreciate you, I love you, and I'm never going to forget about y'all.
Right. Yeah. And you practice what you preach. As easy as today, we had this conversation a while ago, and you said, boom, whenever the schedule was in itself, I know I'm all around the world. I see you in Drake House, Eddie Murphy, everybody, right? And you say I'm jumping on the couch, man. So I mean, you living by
absolutely.
You practicing what you preaching, right? So that's big, man.
Out the park, niggas know me. Curtbone, little homie. All days, yeah. Been a road.
Thank you for watching Changing Jewels on Curtbone TV. If you like the jewels that we are dropping, subscribe, hit the notification, and share with some friends. And I'll see you on the next episode of Changing Jewels, Curtbone TV.